Ecuador's Constitutional Court on Wednesday admitted the impeachment proceedings against President Guillermo Lasso. Peru's Congress has questioned the decision to initiate a formal vacancy motion process against the country Duarte admitted process in front of the parliament. At least 12 people died and 19 others rescued in India on Thursday after a collapse of a temple floor. Hello, welcome to From the South. I am Heidi Maurel from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news, stay with us. Ecuador's Constitutional Court on Wednesday admitted the impeachment proceedings against President Guillermo Lasso. The request for admissibility of the proceeding against Lasso was approved during a plenary session with 6 votes in favor and 3 abstentions. The resolution is based on the second draft opinion prepared by Judge Ali Lozada and Richard Ortiz. On the other hand, the Legislative Board now has 3 days to study the report and then send it to Oversight Commission, which has approximately 1 month to gather evidence so that the President can exercise his rights to defense. Subsequently, the trial will go to plenary on the Assembly, and there 92 votes will need neither to censure and remove Lasso from office. Following with the decision of Ecuador's Constitutional Court, the impeachment process now returns to the National Assembly for it to move forward. Let's see how this process has stakes to first accuse the president of Guillermo Lasso over corruption charges has been processing.
The ruling of Judge Richard Ortiz declaring the admissibility of the impeachment trial against the head of state was approved by the Constitutional Court. A key element for the approval was the vote in favor of at least 6 of the 9 members of said body. Initially, the court appointed Judge Teresa Núñez, who, on Monday, delivered a draft proposal suggesting the court not to admit the impeachment trial. However, her proposal only received 3 votes in favor, meaning it was not approved. The recently approved proposal will now go to the National Assembly, whose president, Virgilio Saquicela, will present it before the Legislative Board of Directors within 3 days so the process can officially begin. The legislative body will then forward it to the Oversight Committee of the Parliament, which will notify President Guillermo Lasso so he can exercise his right to a defense and present his response to the accusations. The plenary will debate and finally make a decision. If it reaches 92 votes in favor, which constitutes a qualified majority of the Assembly members, Lasso will be impeached and removed from his duty as head of state. In addition, he will not be able to hold public office for the following 2 years. This is the first time in more than 90 years that an Ecuadorian president is the subject of an impeachment trial. The original request reached the court on March 24th after the National Assembly approved a report accusing him of corruption in a series of shady businesses within public companies.
Peru's Congress has postponed the decision to initiate a formal vacancy motion process against the country President Dina Boluarte amid protests in front of the parliament. Several politicians and social organizations gathered in front of the Congress on Thursday to protest against the delay of vacancy motion and hold Boluarte responsible for expressing and murdering more than 60 citizens during the protest against her in the past days, as well as for usurping power. On the other hand, Congress informed on its official Twitter account on Thursday it was putting off the decision over the vacancy motion against Boluarte without revealing the reason of the decision. The vacancy motion accuses the president of being morally unfit for office. Meanwhile, it is unclear whether legislatures will take the 52 votes needed to initiate formal vacancy proceedings. If so, 87 votes will be needed to remove Dina Boluarte from office. In Argentina, Frente de Todos Deputy Gisela Marciota presented on Thursday a bill to grant amnesty to Argentine social leader Milagros Sala, who has been detained for 7 years. The initiative is backed by legislators of that Alliance Nobel Peace Prize winner Adolfo Pérez Esquivel, human rights organizations, the Association of State Workers, and the Tupac Amaru Group, whose members marched to Vacancy to Congress for express their support. The bill proposed amnesty with respect to all the facts considered criminal related to the political and social activity for the Tupac, for which its members have been charged, prosecuted, or convicted since December 1st, 2015 to the present. Milagro became the most important leader in Jujuy. Her leadership for the ruling classes is seen as deficient currently. She is under house arrest and multiple organizations have denounced the humiliation, abuse, and attacks she has suffered. The official final result of the legislative elections held in Cuba on March 26 confirmed the selection of the 470 deputies who will be formed of the country's new National Assembly. This was informed at a press conference on Thursday by the President of the National Electoral Council, Alina Balseiro Gutierrez. Balseiro said that out of 8,129,329 registered voters, 6,167,605 went to the polls for a 75.87% turnout. The president of the electoral entity reiterated that the whole process will end on April 19, when the new National Assembly is expected to start its 5 years, 7th legislature, and select of its members, the Council of State, and the President and Vice President of the Republic.
Of the total number of ballots deposited at the polls, 5,565,640 were valid, representing 90.28%. 383,316 were blank for 6.22%, and 215,920 were void for 3.50%. 4,012,864 voted for the all candidates option, which represents 72.10%, while 1,552,776 or 27.90% voted selectively for the candidates of their choice.
In Mexico, progress is being made in the inquiry regarding the total fire incidents at the refugee shelter facility, which resulted in 39 migrants dead and another 26 hospitalized. Our correspondent Daniel Rosas has the details.
An investigation is already on the way on the fire that killed dozens of migrants in Ciudad Juárez in the border state of Chihuahua.
So far, we have identified 8 people allegedly responsible for what happened.
The necessary arrest warrants will be requested throughout the day. The request for the hearings has already been made. This inquiry will span to all areas of responsibility within the National Migration Institute.
Among the arrest warrants being issued, one might be against the migrant who started the fire. The other persons identified are 2 federal police officers, a state immigration officer, and 5 members of a private security company.
All those that must will be summoned before the public prosecutor's office, whether they are public servants or not.
The surviving migrants currently hospitalized say they had protested for the lack of water and the raids.
None of the police servants tried to open the door for the migrants as I already amid the flames.
The updated list of people housed at the refugee shelter is 66 migrants, and the conditions of the place are being investigated.
As part of the investigation, we will look into how many hours and how the migrants were treated in that place. Everything will be revealed. Truth will be told, and it is part of the investigation that the Attorney General's office has to do.
Mexican authorities have repeatedly said they regret the incident and that they will see it through to its ultimate consequences.
Daniel Rosas, TeleSUR, Ciudad de México.
And let's take a short break, but first remember you can follow us on TikTok account at teleSUR English, in which we will see news in different formats, news updates and more. Other stories coming up, stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. In the United States and New York, a grand jury has voted to indict former President Donald Trump after investigating hush money payments made on his behalf during his 2016 presidential campaign. The grand jury has been probing Trump's involvement in $130,000 payments made in 2016 to the adult movie star Stormy Daniels to keep her from going public about a sexual encounter she said with the reporting years early. Trump has denied encounters occurring, and she said nothing wrote case in the investigating of a witch hunt by Democratic prosecutor bent on sabotaging the Republicans' 2024 presidential campaign. The 78-year-old Republican will be the first former sitting president to be charged with the crime, on penny Trump's 2024 White House bid. The Syrian Arab Army repelled a new attack perpetrated by the Israeli forces against the province of Damascus. This is a second aggression by the Tel Aviv in 24 hours. According to the Ministry of Defense on Thursday, Israel carried out an air aggression with missiles from the Golan Heights to destroy the capital. The entity pointed out that the last two Israeli bombings have left 2 wounded, multiple materials damage, and a constitution in the unlanding of humanitarian aid to the country. Finally, the military institution pointed out that this kind of aggression by Israel on Syrian territory prolongs the war, maintains instability in the nation, and weakens the national army. In Turkey, the Grand National Assembly ratified the protocol on Finland's membership in NATO. The Turkish parliament was the last among the 3 members of the alliance to ratify Finland's membership after Hungary's legislature approved a similar bill early this week. Before Finland officially becomes a member of NATO, an exchange of letters will take place, after which Helsinki's accession documents must be formally submitted to the U.S. State Parliament, which serves as the alliance depository under the 1949 NATO founding treaty. On March 23rd, the Foreign Affairs Commission of the Turkish Parliament considered the ratification of Finland's protocol on NATO membership, adopted it, and subsequently submitted it for a Parliament for consideration. Cuban and Chinese authorities analyzed the state of cooperation in the fields of telecommunications, biotechnology, and health, as well as the possibility for the expansion of these agreements. At a meeting in Beijing on Friday, the Island's Deputy Prime Minister Jorge Luis Perdomo and authorities of the Asian Giant agreed to continue developing projects in the fields of biotechnology, cybersecurity, health, and telecommunications. Both nations will study projects to integrate Cuba into China's Silk Belt and Road Initiative as part of a joint cooperation. This is the beginning of an agenda that will also include a future meeting with Cuban government authorities and Chinese companies from the strengthening of their bilateral relations. Following a severe drought last summer, which sparked former France's President Emmanuel Macron went to the Savins-le-Lac commune in the French Alps to present a water sovereignty plan for all industries in the preparation for a possible situation of great stress this next summer.
As we did regarding energy, we will ask each sector to draw up a water sobriety plan by summer. In the next few days, the minister will bring together all the sectors concerned: energy, industry, tourism, leisure, agriculture. It works when everyone knows what the situation is, when everyone is made aware of their responsibilities, and when we know that it is a shared effort. But we do know that because of the specificity of certain territories, the isolation of certain communities, we cannot rule out situations of great stress next summer, in spite of this plan, which I will call of emergency and reduction of our consumption, therefore of sobriety.
And while Macron made his announcement, outside demonstrators gathered to state they are still in rebellion and unwilling to be appeased after government forces through the highly unpopular pension reform. Protesters at the site were met with violence from anti-riot police.
We came here peacefully, and we are absolutely stunned to see how the riot police behaves when there is absolutely no need for it. For we have just come to express our discontent, and they not only forbid us to be there, but they have crushed us. It's sheer violence. We are here because we are not satisfied with the reforms, and especially because we are not being heard, and we don't have rights anymore.
He is evading the issue. Supposedly, he's come to talk about water to appease. But in fact, at this point, we don't want to be appeased at all. This is a rebellion.
The Vatican announced that Pope Francis is better and back to work, dispelling concerns about the health of the head of the Catholic Church. The director of the Holy See's press office, Matteo Bruni, said in a statement on Thursday that the health of 86-year-old Holy Father is progressively improving. The spokesman reported that after breakfast today, the Pope read some newspapers and went back to work. However, the head of the Catholic Church next scheduled meeting have been cancelled so that we can continue with his treatment in the hospital for a few more days. Pope Francis was admitted to a Roman hospital since Wednesday as a result of pulmonary infection. And teleSUR English continued to grow. You can now tune in from 36 different African countries through StarSat. Dial from 161 and enjoy a Latin American alternative broadcast. We'll find a short break and we'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. In India, at least 12 people died and 19 others were rescued on Thursday after the floor of a temple collapsed and they fell into a well in the Madhya Pradesh region. After the events, a team of firefighters, police, and disaster management personnel moved to a scene of the incident, which occurred when apparently the ground did not support a large number of people. Local media said that the head of the government of the region said that the collapse of the infrastructure was due to excessive weight, overcrowding, and heavy footsteps of people pacing. So far, 10 people have been rescued and 9 others are still trapped. On Thursday, Kenyan opposition leader Raila Odinga listed the third day of protest against the high cost of living amid beefed-up security. Hundreds of protesters gathered the opposition politicians' convoy as it passed through some Nairobi's neighborhoods. Odinga has called for protesters every Monday and Thursday, accusing President William Ruto of stealing last year's elections and failing to control the rising cost of living. The demonstrations previously declared illegal by the government have been repressed on previous days by the police with tear gas grenades, after cannons, and occasionally leaf bullets. The African Union also appealed on Tuesday for calm and political dialogue to end the crisis. Meanwhile, President Ruto, who was back in Kenya after a trip to Germany and Belgium, warned his compatriots illy this week and that must abide by the rule of law. On Thursday, a Senegalese court gave opposition politician Ousmane Sonko 2 months suspended the prison sentence for demanding a minister. Ousmane Sonko, 48, had to answer for defamation, insults, and forgery against the Minister of Tourism, Mame Mbaye, in addition to the 2-month suspended prison sentence. The court fined Mr. Sonko, who was absent from the hearing, €30,000 to be paid to the minister. It released him from the offense in assault and forgery. According to Sonko's legal team, the opposition politician is still eligible to run in the presidential elections in 2024. On Thursday, 4 policemen were killed in Pakistan by a roadside bomb as they scrambled to protect the police station. Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan fighters launched a heavy weapons assault on early hours of the day against a police station in Laki Makwat, district of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province on the border with Afghanistan. Senior local police official Muhammad Ashkat reported that 4 officers, including a superintendent, have been killed by a bomb as they rushed towards the fight in a plain act of terrorism. Uganda deployed 1,000 troops to the east of the Democratic Republic of Congo as part of the East African Community's operation to preserve security in the nation. The community reported on Thursday that Uganda military troops have been fully deployed to support the ceasefire and restoration of the peace between the Congolese army and the M23 rebels. The multinational forces employ soldiers from Uganda, Burundi, and Kenya and is intended to contain the M23 rebels who launched attack on Congolese army oppositions in June last year and occupied several areas. The African Union, EU, and Canada-based international non-profit agency Nutrition International have launched a campaign aimed at reducing malnutrition, particularly in teenage girls. According to African Union release, the initiative launched during a high-level dialogue on nutrition financing in Maseru, Lesotho, also seeks to improve the health, well-being, and empowerment of girls in Africa through efforts to prevent iron deficit anemia. In the issue, EU Commissioner for Health, Humanitarian Affairs and Social Development, Minata Samate Sesouma, called for advocacy action to prioritize teenager nutrition in EU member states. Sesouma recalled that anemia affects cognitive functioning, compromises school performance, reduces productivity, and affects current and future reproductive health. In Malawi, death toll could rise to 120 after Cyclone Freddy. The death toll from Cyclone Freddy, which dissipated on the mid-March after massive flooding and landslide in the southern Africa, could exceed 120,000 of Malawians' hope deadly of finding survivors, police and authorities said on Thursday. The cyclone killed at least 675 people in Malawi. The country's disaster management department says that the chance of finding the 538 missing more than 2 weeks after the disaster have become painfully slim. Search operations with sniffer dogs are continuing in some places, his head Charles Kalemba said on Wednesday, but no longer it had hit Balantry, as the team of the ground has informed that they have done their best. And we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok as well. For TeleSUR English, I am Heidi Maurel. Thank you for watching.